Think of it as the rough draft of the podcast world. This is the Newbie Writers Podcast with your hosts Lillian Byrd and Catherine Bramkamp.
Welcome to episode 140 of the Newbie Writers Podcast, and if I sound a bit gravelly and nasally, you can blame my son for that. Thanks, Julian.
Oh, he turned 5, though, and did he turn 5 and give you a cold for his gift to you?
Yes. And, you know, we gave him cake and presents, and I got a sore throat.
Oh, it is so... I have bad news for you. Get used to that kind of exchange.
What? Yeah. It's because they like to hug. But anyway.
Yeah.
No.
Well, and they like to spread the joy, the love, and the pain, I think, is what it comes down to.
Pain, but yes, it was good. Thanks for doing the show last week.
Oh, my pleasure.
I liked your email that came through and said, yeah, the show was good, but we did miss your, was it poor attitude? No, it wasn't poor attitude.
No. It wasn't poor attitude. It was your bad attitude, or your alternative, because we got really serious. It was two writers, two female writers talking to each other, getting really serious, and we need you to come in and say, wait a minute, hold on, time out. What are we really talking about? So I appreciate that about you.
Right. So, as the clown jester on this show, I'd like to I'd like to introduce Elizabeth Sims to our show, and she's drinking. I encourage all our guests to drink on this show. Finally, someone's doing it.
Yes, I have a short martini here. You know, Friday nights are martini nights at our house, and so usually I would have been at it by now, but out of respect to your show and the timing here, I put it off. But when Damien and I were pre-talk chatting, chatting, I mentioned martinis. He said, well, why not have one now? And I thought, well, give me 5 minutes. So here I am with it, and we're all set to go.
Yeah.
Like it. You're a woman after my own heart. Dirty martinis, my favorite.
Because it's the right time over there. It's only weird for me because it's 8:30 in the morning. Now, if I'm stirring a martini at that time, bring on the therapy.
Yeah, that doesn't bode well for the rest of your day, actually.
No. Now, before we get into some things, I need to have a bit of a rant because I didn't get any support from my wife yesterday, but she's been bugging me to watch the last Harry Potter.
Oh, all right.
So the part 2. And I don't like Harry Potter because it's the kids' Lord of the Rings. So, but they, I don't know where to begin. It was a darker film, right? So I'm all cool for that.
Yeah.
And I actually quite enjoyed it up until there's way too much romance in this movie for starters.
Oh,
right? It's disgusting. They don't need that. Children kissing.
Is your favorite moment in the Star Wars movies, Damien, when the Ewok gets killed? Do you cheer when that happens?
Oh, look, yeah.
Yeah.
I am Grumpy Cat. But here's the thing.
Good to know.
Right? So the movie, it was going along okay, but the ending, and I don't care for things like spoilers, it's a 2-year-old movie or 3-year-old movie.
Yeah, you can probably put a spoiler in at this point.
The ending is bullshit. I'm sorry, but if you're going to put 19 years later and have them playing Ma and Pa, you've lost me.
Yeah, that was gross.
Right? Yeah, exactly. I'm liking Elizabeth. Do you want to be on this show forever?
I'm at your service.
Because here's the thing. This is what I said to Sharon, and she was like, well, but it was a good ending. It was a nice ending to the film. No. If you've saved the world, if you've destroyed the evil, he would surely be held in some very high regard in that land of theirs.
Yes.
You wouldn't then go, I'm going to go back and play mum and dad and then send my kid off and redo it all again and be a nobody on a train station sending his kid off to Hogwarts. Nah. You'd be like,
I agree. You know, readers and viewers love recursion, and that's, of course, why that's there. But it does really suck in practical terms.
Like, why isn't anyone even going, that's him? And in fact, his name's on the train. Like,
that's the guy with the scar on his forehead. We recognize that anywhere. I mean, they've set that up in the first 2 or 3 books and it sort of fell off.
Isn't that guy that's got the big portrait that hangs in the main hall now? Like, you know, there's just no recognition that he'd done all this stuff 20 years before. But instead oh, look, my boy called Elvis. Yeah. Anyway, I went to bed angry at Harry Potter.
For being so ordinary. I wonder about that because the romance also seemed very forced and not even. There's some moments. I mean, when Louisa May Alcott wrote Little Women, there was huge pressure for her to marry off Joe, her avatar, essentially.
Oh God, yeah.
Right, and so she does it. And she pays him off to the professor, but I that almost felt better than what J.K. Rowling did with Harry and Hermione. I don't think that worked.
No, it was really awkward. So yes.
Yeah.
No, she had to make an exit, and I guess that was the strategy. But I mean, Joe marrying Professor Byrd killed the book for me too. Yeah.
Yeah. Just like, well, okay, I'll give you an out on this. What I see is that by marrying the German professor, Joe was actually marrying Emerson, Ralph Waldo Emerson, who she had a childhood crush on all of her childhood.
I'm sure you're right.
Yeah, it's a lot easier to take. She's like, oh no, I'm going to marry Emerson. It's like, oh, okay, well that works.
Yeah.
But I think that's cool. I wonder too, Damien, if they should have, Rowling's may have considered just ending the books with the characters the age they were, and not tried to do that fast forward, 40 years later, 20 years later, because maybe the readers didn't need that.
No, but the reason they do that is because that's her insurance money.
Yes.
Right, because if she gets broke, she can say, well, I've written another one where Harry Potter's son now, and Harry turns into the next Voldemort because for some stupid reason he got a stomach bug and now he's angry, and he's got to feed his own dad. Because he didn't get
any recognition the first time around.
Mind you, I don't think Elvis Potter and the Gaviscon bottle is not going to be very popular, but still, she can make another. She can make another movie in 10 years' time and go, look at me, I'm cashed up to the hilt.
Fan fiction before our very ears here from you, Damien.
I know, fan fiction, like I'm a fan. Anyway, well, we can tie that in as a segue because you've got a book called "You've Got a Book in You." That's what we talk about. Do we have a book?
So tell us about the book and about some of the key points that would help our newbie writer listeners.
Well, yes, I'd be glad to. So may I first tell you what led me to write the book? Would that be acceptable at this time?
Go for it. I want to know where this book is in me as well, because I do.
Damien has a book in him. We're working on getting it out, so this will be great.
Yeah.
That's the spirit. All right. Well, so I had written a couple of 2 or 3 novels in my Lillian Byrd series. The titles are Holy Hell, Damn Straight, Lucky Stiff, and Easy Street. And I know we're supposed to keep a lid on the profanity here, but I think that should be it. I might have to say something like jackass later on, but that's not exactly profanity.
That's fine. Anything that's got the F word in it, I just put a rooster over it later.
Right. Oh, okay, got it. Okay. Well, anyway, there's plenty of F words in my fiction, actually. But so I had written these books, and while I was in the midst of writing one of them, an idea came to me. I was kind of trying to help myself be a better writer and trying to help myself through a rough spot, and I did, and I thought, gosh, I bet other writers might like to hear this tip. And I had been a reader of Writer's Digest magazine. That's the leading writing magazine in America, possibly the world for all I know. But at any rate, I had been a reader of their magazine and also had purchased books by Writer's Digest Books, the print arm, the press arm of their company. So I wrote up a little inquiry via email and sent it on to them saying, hey, I thought of this idea and, I could write an article for you guys about it. I have these, I'm a legit published author, which these days you really kind of have to emphasize if you want to get your foot in the door somewhere. So anyway, and they wrote back to me saying, well, we think your main idea sucks, but your couple of ideas that you have at the bottom there that you said you could flesh those out. Why don't you flesh out this one of those and send it on? So I did that, and they liked it and printed my first article. That was back in 2006. So I was a writer. I became then. So once you have an article printed, just FYI, once you have an article published in a writing magazine, you become a writing expert, a writing authority. And so then I kept writing more articles for them, and they kept buying them, and so I became kind of this authority, and I kept on with the writing the articles, but I also had more that I wanted to tell, and part of it was because when you're also an author, but meanwhile I had written more novels, and when you're an author, a real author with some credits, and especially when you become enviable to the level of having representation by a significant agency in New York, which I was fortunate to do, you get people, and people say, "What do you do?" And you say, "I'm an author," and yada yada, and they go, I want to write a book. I want to write a book too. I have an idea for a book, but gosh, it must be awful hard. I've heard that it's so hard to write a book. And I'm like, well, kind of the reason I am as successful I am is that I kind of decided that it doesn't have to be hard. It really doesn't. And so I thought, so I tried to kind of get this across to people, but meanwhile I also looked at all the writing books that were available, the main ones, and really did a lot of reading because I wanted to be able to recommend a writing book that would be encouraging to aspiring novelists, especially fiction or nonfiction, but mostly fiction because that's kind of what people seem to really want to write. So I looked in these books, excuse me, and I read a lot of them, and I found to my dismay that all of them, sooner or later, say how horribly hard writing a book is, especially a whole book, and how slim your chances for success are if you want to get that book out into the world. It's almost certain hardly anybody's ever going to read it or find it or yada yada yada. And I was horrified. I was appalled. I'm like, these are books that are supposed to help writers, help aspiring authors. So I thought, well, I'll write my own book and tell the different message, tell the message that it reflects my experience and the experience, frankly, of precious few of my friends, at least up until that point, because practically everybody thinks that writing is hard. So I wrote up a proposal. I talked to my agent about it, wrote up a proposal, and I knew that Writer's Digest books would be the most reasonable, most no-brainer publisher, and so it was worked out. Yes, they bought the book, and I wrote it then, and they're very happy with it. It's in its third printing now, I might add, only about a year out from publication. So I'm very happy about that.
That's awesome! Congratulations! It's wonderful.
Thank you. Yes. Yeah. It's been very gratifying. I have a couple of, I have a note from a reader that perhaps I'll get to later to tell you kind of show how gratifying it is. But so you asked, of course, Catherine and Damien, how what are some high points of the book?
Yeah.
And it's kind of funny. The book has been excerpted by bloggers and so forth, or here and there and around, and also Writer's Digest magazine. And people zoom in on and focus in on different lessons that seem to, of course, whatever resonates with that person is what they're most likely to find the most useful for anyone. That's what they might decide. But one thing, so my message is that writing a book is not necessarily hard at all, provided we get the heck out of our own way and let our natural talent and creativity take over. And so that's what I talk about in the book. I offer techniques that have helped me and other writing, people that I've coached and done workshops with and so forth, help them write well. And at least, when the first thing is to write freely. So the main technique that I talk about in the book is this thing. I made up this little word. I make up these little words all the time to try to get across what I want to say that can't be easily done with normal words. So I got this idea of storm writing, not brainstorming, but storm writing. So I don't like brainstorming because there's too much brain involved in it. You need to open up your core as a writer, and I call your core as a writer your heart brain, your mysterious deep core of you as a writer. So you need to open that up. And in this storm writing technique, as I call it, I focus on, I invite writers to focus on two things, two simple prompts, I suppose. And the first one is yes and,
Okay.
which I got from an actor friend of mine when we were talking about improvisation. Actors making up things as they go along. I told him that I thought that must be very hard. Well, he said, no, it's not that hard. You can make it hard, but if you have the right attitude, then you're going to be okay. And I said, what's that? He said, yes and. Not no but, not even yes but yes and. So you prompt your heart brain with yes and, as you get your initial idea going, and you say, okay, yes and then the second and final major key that is all you need to complement that is what if. And what if you stop to think about it, every great storyteller from the time that we were all gnawing on mastodon bones around the fire in front of the cave up until the airport, the spinner racks at the airport with the bestsellers on it, all those top storytellers have used what if, and they've used yes and. And so I try to, when I work with aspiring writers, and when I wrote this book, I tried to get across how simple and easy it is to get your creative juices flowing, and these are two little a four-word set that you can use to do that.
It's almost yes and what if, or it's like as Ray Bradbury says, you have your hero, you set up him or her up, and then you throw stuff in their way. So it's like, well, he slayed yes, he slayed the dragon, but what if goblins came down? I mean, it would be that simple.
Well, yeah. To sort of go back a bit for a sec, Mitchell Smith's actually listening live. Welcome. He's asked a question: why do you want a book? Which I think is an interesting question, because people come across everyone who says, "Oh, I'd love to write a book," and I think the next question should be why.
Yeah.
Yes. I don't want to jump in too early. Were you going to add anything, Damien?
No, I'm just sort of saying his question. Why would anyone want a book? I think is the question.
Well, yes, it is. It's an excellent question. And, it reminds me of Flannery O'Connor, one of my great literary heroes, an American writer in the mid-century of last century who wrote some wonderful things. Wise Blood is probably her best-known novel. She was asked during an interview, she was asked, do you think, Miss O'Connor, that students in colleges who are studying writing are not encouraged enough by their professors? And she said, well, I think they're encouraged far too much. She said, she's basically saying not everybody has what it takes to come out with something worth reading. So that popped into my mind. But also, there are two reasons why anyone would want to write a book, want to write anything of any length and narrative length. One being because you have something to say. And for a long time, I thought that was it. I had a professor in university in my home state of Michigan who said that, well, if you want to write something, you have to have something to say first. And I thought that was the greatest wisdom. However, as I became an author and as I matured, I hope, as an author and matured artistically, I realized, well, that's one reason you could write and would want to write, have the drive to write. But the other reason is because you want to find out. Because you want to, you can use writing to explore something.
Okay.
As just about any art, but because only by writing into something sometimes can you really figure it out and figure out what you feel and think, and develop your own ideas and thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think some people want to write a book because they think that they'll become rich and famous off it, though? And that's a little bit
Yes, those are the people who want to have written a book.
Yeah, I was going to say they want to be done with it.
Yeah, there's that. But yes, I'm sure I know that there are folks out there who feel that they look at the top best-selling authors and think, well, why can't I do that? It's just a matter of putting words on a page. It's sort of like, it's unlike watching a terrific football player get the ball across the goal line. It's unlike watching Einstein or drawing on a blackboard. You look at that and you go, oh, I could never do that. No wonder they make so much money. Or I didn't know Einstein made much money. But something that's an overt physical skill, especially, you can look at that and say, oh well, I can't do that, and I can understand why that takes a lot of specialization. But when people look at writing, well, I learned to write in first grade. I learned my ABCs right away, and I can write. And it's similar to people who look at CEOs. What do? They sit in an office all day, and they talk to people. Well, so why can't I do that? Why do they make so much money? You know what I mean? That's there's this sort of disconnect. Eliminating the whole economic reality of the fact that we are all compensated according to the market value of whatever we do, whether it's holding a position in a firm or putting out a product. So now I've lost my train of thought probably because of the gin. What?
Yeah, no problem. It's more like, Damien, just our listener said, why would you write a book? And I liked your comment about writing your way into what you think about something, and that's very Natalie Goldberg. That's very much where she's coming from with writing. Is that you just you let yourself get into it. Now that doesn't mean that book is going to necessarily be publishable, or is it something that you want out in the world? Maybe you just wrote the book because you really needed to do that work. And I'm a big advocate of just doing the work.
Yes.
Well,
yes.
I don't think there's any time constraints on it either. Some people are very quick to try. And for me, I slowly plod away. There is a little bit of pressure, considering we do this show once a week, and I still haven't finished. It just goes on and on and on. But I think that whatever, get there eventually. That's the whole part of it, I'd say. But what about those people that are very quick to? They think they've got a book in them, and they bang something out and they type it up over a weekend. It's only 10 pages, and then out she goes onto Amazon. And they go, well, I'm an author now.
Yes. Yes, well, that's certainly happening all over the place. And we all have to kind of remember that Amazon, of course, didn't always exist, and self-publishing in this way, digital self-publishing, didn't always exist. So there was, in a way, a pent-up demand for it. And there's this huge rush of people posting their material on something like Amazon Kindle and so forth. I would say that I have noticed from when I started being an aspiring author and trying to attract either an agent to represent my work or a publisher on my own, in the day when there was not this kind of self-publishing, there was the vanity presses that would publish your book if you gave them $5,000 up front to print you a bunch of copies, and then you had to go around and hawk them at garage sales or wherever, So, what do you got? Rummage sales, I guess, maybe is what you guys call the garage sales. Anyway,
garage sales.
So it took me, because I did not have this easy self-publishing option. I just doggedly kept at it, writing a book, writing another book, selling my first series to a publisher by myself. Not because I couldn't. I got nibbles from agents, but not any real bites. So. Then came time. This gin was a bad idea. So we're talking. Oh yes. Okay, and so did Damien. It's your fault.
It is.
Yeah.
You told me to have a drink while I'm doing this. Anyway,
I haven't seen anything wrong with this. What's going on?
You're very kind. He's a gentleman, isn't he?
I try to be.
Yes.
Okay, so but it's a very different ballgame today. When I work with writers, I have on and off, when I have time and the inclination, I will work with, I'll kind of mentor and do writing coaching individually for writers who want to get a book out. And often they are pretty far along in the process. They'll have either an entire manuscript that they know needs work, and they don't know what to do, and they turn to me, or they have a partial manuscript that they know needs work and don't know what to do next. So when in working with these authors, I find that they're very impatient compared to what I was to get either representation or a publishing contract, and they don't try a heck of a long time before they'll resort to self-publishing. And resort sounds like it's like this, lousy thing. It can be wonderful, and it has been wonderful for a great many authors. Right now, for instance, I have plans to self-publish my next novel, and that's another story. But so I'll be what's known as a hybrid author, published both traditionally, that is by an established publishing company, and then also by myself. Yes, there's far less patience for the traditional process, although there is no less thirst to have the status that comes with representation by a well-known agency and a hardcover contract with one of the big 5 publishers in New York, for instance.
Well, do you think it dilutes the pool, though? When you've got people that are, they'll sit there and go, well, I published 20 books this year, and they're all like just 10, 12 pages of something, and it's rubbish. But they're, and that's out there, and consumers are lapping that up because it's free or it's $1. Does that then really diminish the whole concept of I've got a book out and it's not, it's not polished, it's not perfect?
Yeah, well, yes, it does. But also what's happening is because savvy readers have picked up on the fact that if this book is by Joe Blow and it costs 1 cent, downloading it, let alone reading page 1. So readers have gotten savvy about that, and tastemakers have cropped up. Goodreads is a major one. They were so successful and so widely participated in, I guess. So many people signed up to participate in it because it is such a very good model for readers, savvy readers sharing real opinions that, I think Amazon did buy them. I think it's the arm of Amazon now. So there's that. There are countless Yahoo chat groups or other kinds of chat rooms, chat groups, bulletin boards, where consumers of, say, a particular kind of fiction or nonfiction can get together and dish on what's the latest, greatest. So initially I was dismayed to as the whole Amazon digital Kindle thing came on. I was initially quite dismayed at how any idiot could just put their book out there and say, I'm an author, and I was like, God damn it, I've sweated and worked for years, and endured heartbreak after agonizing wait after you name it, and to get to where I am. And now you've got your book out that anybody can. So I was chagrined about that, but I knew that somehow or other there was going to have to be some winnowing process, and there's a lot less wheat out there than chaff, certainly, in these digital publishing situations.
Yeah, because I self-publish and I have traditional publishers, and I get frustrated with traditional publishers because they take a very long time when you consider how short it is to do it yourself. You can do it in minutes practically, right? And I don't even have edits back, and I got accepted by a traditional. Get the edits. It's like at the same time, then it's like, but that has got. There'll be some. I think for a lot of us, we go back and forth, and then you have authors who have gone the traditional route, and this goes to your. There's a horror story that goes around my writing group, Redwood Writers. specifically on shelving books. There was one of our authors had her book misshelved. It was like young, let's call it young adult fantasy, and it got plopped into like horror. I mean, it looks awful, right? And it tanked. Of course, it tanked because it was in the wrong place. So the publishers didn't do anything about it. They didn't help her promote it, and it just sank without a splash. And so she took it back and republished it herself, and is promoting it herself. So I see the other side where self-publishing can be a way of saying, I'm taking back the night. I'm going to just do this.
Yes, definitely. The traditional publishing process, and I'll call it traditional publishing process because that seems to be the most accepted term. There are some
they hate it. Legacy is the word they hate.
Yeah, legacy. Yeah, that's the other. I was trying to grope for that term. So, the advantage of that is that you get your book. I mean, if it's a good publisher, excuse me. If it's a good publisher, you get your book edited by by a professional, and you don't have to pay for it. You will get paid for it. Hopefully you get an advance of at least something, paltry though they're ever growing. But you get that. You get a professional package, and of course you get whatever else the publisher is going to do for you, which in some cases is significant, in some cases not. Now, something that I'm noticing also, especially among smaller publishers, smaller niche publishers, they're starting to compete with one another for authors, and they're starting to say, well, hey, those guys can do this for you, but here's what we can do for you, which is like, holy crow,
that's crazy.
Bar the door, what's the world's turned upside down. They're actually trying to do something for me. So that I'm noticing that, and I predict that that's a trend that's going to continue, and it's going to get further and deeper into the upper echelons of publishing. I might also note that one of the things that took a long time for traditional publishers between the time you signed your contract and delivered your book to the time that it appeared on store shelves. Mostly it was the supply cycle to bookstores. In olden times, not long ago, a publisher would they would figure out what their spring catalog was going to be, what 15 titles are going to be in that catalog, or they would then catalog, and they would have to get sent to or carried to by a representative, by a publisher's rep, to the major buyers of the major book outlets, book retailers. So, again, they're not being this digital situation. So all of that, and then the buyers would decide, how many copies they would like to, whether they think this book is going to be successful or not, or is their demographic going to enjoy this. They'll put it on their list. This is how many copies we're going to pre-order from you. How many we want for our first order. So, a large book-selling chain might buy, say, we'll take 5,000 of these or 10,000 of these, whatever, and all these orders add up. Then and only then does the publisher know how big of an initial print run to make. And so then you have the print run that you have to deal with, and the shipping of that, the proofing of that, the shipping of that, the whole gosh darn thing, the building in of error time, and so all of those things combine to make it a long process. But I think that, I also see that this is shrinking. So and I predict that this will go on as well.
Yeah, and I think the cycle is more like anywhere from 18 months to 2 years, and I think that's still true. I think that I know I have friends who used to be book reps, and life was good in the 70s and 80s, and they just shake their head now. It's like, it's just not like that. They can't hand sell books. They can't say, hey, we love this author because they just met us at their house with wine and a potluck, and it's not like that anymore.
It's very different, and it's easy to kind of slump one's shoulders over the state of affairs. However, it's like, if you're going to do that, then just give it up, because you're going to be miserable, because it's never going to be the way it used to be. So you have to just say, okay, this is a new world, and I'm going to figure out the combo here so that I can be successful in it.
Well, here's a question for you, and I ask this of most of our guests, is that, do you have a set structure when it comes to your writing? Do you sit down? Some people are like early morning weirdos that get up at 5 a.m. Catherine.
Hey.
Hey, and do it. Others are, they set aside X amount of time during the day. How do you go about doing it?
Well, yeah, it's varied a lot through the course of my life. When I had day jobs, I would write after work. I never was as much of an early owl as I would have liked to be, because I always feel that people who get up very early in the 5 a.m. range are better than the rest of us somehow.
Nice
and
cover.
I've tried to get up at 5 a.m. and I feel that someday I will again give a really good shot to getting up at 5 a.m. Because if you really get up at 5 and you can have your butt in a chair at 5:30 or 6 at the latest, you can have your coffee, you can have your your egg or something, and you can get your whole day's output done by like 9, and then have the rest of the day to do other business and everything from tweaking your website to putting out your backlist to whatever. So, but anyway, but what do? I definitely write my own stuff first and foremost in the morning, and that is just as a writer matures and has publications and the obligations that go with it. Emails from readers, invitations to speak at conferences. Will you write this article? Will you let me interview you for our wonderful podcast, for instance? All these things that you have to answer and at least address somehow or other, and many of them you want to do and participate in. All these things do add up and pile up, and they become this admin part of your day that you have to do. And betwixt and between, you also have to go and go to the dentist and buy groceries and so forth, and exercise. I'm really into keeping my body fit, because the life of a writer, you can just sort of become welded onto your chair and never get out of it, and just
you can look like Jabba the Hutt,
eat M&Ms all day long, and look and feel awful. So I do take the next thing in my priorities is physical fitness and health.
Someone needs to develop an app for a treadmill, so you can just walk and ride. I had to go to the dentist. I had such a shithouse week. I went to the dentist because I had a very bad diet, right? So I have a very what's the term? High intensive job, right? Crawling through roof spaces, that sort of thing. So I'm fit, not a problem. And because of that, I can eat whatever I like and drink whatever I want, and it doesn't. I don't put on weight. And so I used to have a lifestyle of Coke, chips, chocolate, that sort of thing. Right? Wrecked my teeth. Yes, wrecked my teeth. So then, when it got so bad, I stopped all of that, and I have been on a crazy health kick for the last 6 to 7 months. Fruit, muesli bars, that sort of stuff. Awesome. Chipped a tooth, or cracked a tooth in half, eating a muesli bar. So here's the thing. Here's the tip. Don't be too healthy. Because
potato chips are still soft and will not chip your feet.
And they're still potato. It's a vegetable at one point. Right.
Yes, absolutely. I agree. Yeah. Health food can be dangerous. It really can be hazardous. Yeah, I know. And hey, I mean, so is the pits and the martini olives too. You have to watch out for those too. I mean, they're almost a health food, really, when you really look at it and think about it. By the way, did we answer Mitchell's question to his satisfaction?
I'd say so. He hasn't responded saying thanks for that, so I'm assuming that is the case.
All right.
We're good to go. Good.
Yeah. Glad to hear it.
So we can just keep moving on, and I'll get any hate mail if it's not right, but that's all right.
There you go.
Right.
God, so where can we find You've Got a Book in You, other than in me and in you and in Catherine?
Yeah.
Yeah, we can find it. Well, it is available pretty widely in the United States. I understand that it's doing very well in Barnes & Noble stores, and I'm not sure quite why. But there, as well as it's on Amazon and the other major outlets. It's also available in ebook form, I believe, on both Amazon and Barnes & Noble, and possibly elsewhere. I don't know for sure.
Well,
there is international distribution, I believe, in the UK. So I think it may be on store shelves also in your fair country of Australia.
Really? Well, I might have to try and find it. I don't even know if we have a bookstore in this state anymore.
It's depressing.
It is.
There's got to be one. There's got to be at least one.
Well, I'm not sure. I mean, look, our stores get very confused here. I went to a grocery store the other day, and they've got a place, you know, you get your aisles, you got your dairy, your bread, that sort of stuff. Yeah, one of them was you can try on clothes.
Oh.
So I'm like, right. So I can have my shopping cart full of food and try on some underwear.
Nice.
Anyway.
Nice.
It has to be over your jeans, though. Is that right?
I missed that point. No wonder they asked me to leave. But anyway.
And I mean, that could be a fashion statement in and of itself. You understand?
With a
Absolutely.
cape.
So, do we want to do a couple of the regular bits so that I can do them before I take off to go take care of the Queen?
Yes. All right, we can do that. Prompts.
Prompts.
Elizabeth, do you do prompts? Like, I know you said you sort of focus on your own work initially, but sometimes you just get stuck and you just need to write something. Do you sort of look towards a prompt or something to kick it off?
Well, actually what I do is I will go to my bookshelf and take off no clothing, but I will take off a book from that shelf and a book that I thought was great, and I'll open it maybe even at random, and I'll read a paragraph or two, and then I will copy that paragraph or two down by hand.
Oh.
And yes, I call it writing with the masters, and it's a little technique that I also put in You've Got a Book in You. And it just serves to focus, kind of focus down my brain, and it serves to gets my handwriting, and so it's just this technique that I suggest for authors to get under their fingers, so to speak, that will help, because as soon as I'm done with that, then I feel more energized, I feel more focused, and I have absorbed something great, some great writing, and I have seen that, I've read that little bit with much more fine attention than I would have if only my eyes had apprehended it. So that's the kind of prompt that I do, but I'm very interested in hearing what prompts you might be talking about right now.
This prompt that Catherine's done, this is inappropriate for this week.
This is inappropriate.
Do you want me to read it?
Yes, you read it, especially since you think it's inappropriate. I love that.
Why?
Now everyone's paying attention.
Right. Well, the prompt is, why do we get so fatigued by travel? Do you travel? Where do you like to go? And what for you is the difference between a trip and a vacation? Now, seeing as a plane got shot down yesterday, probably not the best prompt to have.
Well, I wrote it when I just got back from spending the 24 hours at JFK Airport in the downstairs in the receiving bin. So, that was a little exhausting.
Well,
but at least I didn't get shot down, so I'm happy about that. That would be stressful.
I do get fatigued by travel.
Appalling.
I mean, if we go driving, do a driving holiday, I'm only 31, and yet if we get to the destination, be it 5 hours away, 2 hours, 8 hours, I have to go and sleep.
Sure, because you can drive.
Well, yeah, or if I'm just sitting there and Sharon's doing the driving, I still find that I get to the place and go, I need to sleep. Can I have a nap for 20 minutes? So, yeah.
But
I think you must be overstimulated then, Damien.
Yeah, that'd be it. Yeah.
Well, we've tried over the course of traveling with my husband. We have worked out specific definitions of what we are about to embark on. So he will say, "Is this a trip or is this a vacation?"
Or is this a child minding service?
Yeah, or exactly. But we had to really make those definitions because I travel with my mother on a consistent basis. That's not necessarily a vacation.
So have you got to the point, that saying like, I don't live with my mother, she lives with me? Do you start saying things like, I'm not on holidays with my mother, she's on holidays with me? Kind of.
Yeah, I mean, for us, we just, my husband knows after 3 weeks traveling with my mother, I need a nap. I need more than a nap. I need a week off, and I have to get a cold. So it takes me a while to recover.
Oh my.
Well, speaking of torture, let's do a tortured sentence.
All right.
Next time, don't put the Roman farces on the right slab. Tortured sentences. Right, well, that was Elizabeth trying to find where the book is inside me. I don't know if we got it all out, though. That's the only thing. All right. This tortured sentence probably came from one of Catherine's students.
Yes, it did.
It says, like others, if we had more time, I could have done much better in presenting what is very obvious to me, but for the time we had it is a respectable effort. Right.
I liked that. I felt that
It's not
there was so little said in so many words.
Well, it's because it's not obvious to you. Duh. And the typos.
Yeah. Oh, I had to put it all in. It was awesome.
It's just stupid.
It reminds me of when my mother was a high school English teacher, and she would teach term papers, how to write them, and demand that her students write one. And she was a pretty stern taskmaster, and I remember her writing on some poor kid's paper, "You have said nothing at all, and you have said it brilliantly." Talk about a deflationary measure.
Compliment. Yeah. Oh.
Yeah, my dad did that. My father was a high school teacher, and I had him for 2 classes. It was social studies. There was no other choice.
God.
To take him. It was lovely. So let's say it was the midterm, and it was an essay midterm, and so I'm writing away, and I turn it in, and he sees me at dinner, and he looks at me, and he says, "Okay, I just want to be clear. Does this crap get you A's in other classes?"
Oh my God.
And I just looked at him and said, yes.
Thanks, pup.
Hang on.
So he gave me an A. He didn't have any choice. He says, I can't even believe this. I said, okay, you use the longest words that you can find, you use the largest vocabulary you can command, and you string these words together, and you're good. What's the problem?
Well, so he was your teacher.
Yeah.
How did you refer to him when you were in that class? Dad.
I didn't. You know what I did is I incorporated, I had a few friends who are as extroverted as I am, and I put them in front of me, and I sat behind them, and I let them do all the work. I didn't say a word.
No, but well, okay, so if you had to put your hand up, you wouldn't say Mr. Bramkamp, or you'd say Dad.
Yep. I didn't put my hand up. I was pretty smart about that. I was just stayed under the radar. Just don't look at me.
That'd just be awkward. You're supposed to go to school to get away from your parents for the day.
Totally, you think?
Well, it explains a lot. Let's do a word.
Boy, yeah, you guys can get at each other there, can't you?
After 140 shows, that's how it works. Now,
yeah.
All right.
Let's do a word of the week.
Let's do word of the week.
Oh, this one's a bit loose-wristed. This one, fabulist. I'm a fabulist. I don't know where this came from. It's fabulous, darling. Composer.
Can you give us a spelling on that?
Yeah.
F-A-B-U-L-I-S-T.
Fabulous.
Oh, well, meaning one who tells fables?
Yes.
You got it.
A teller of tales.
Oh, I beg your pardon. Should I not have spoken out like
Yeah,
that?
that's all right.
It's perfect. I like it when the guests do the bits, because that way they're not sitting there just listening. Yes. Where did this
But I like the second definition, which is a teller of tales, a liar.
Okay, sure. Yes, well, a fabulous tale one definition is one that is not believable. Yeah.
What?
Right, and I like that because in a way, and we've talked about this with memoir writing. I mean, in a way, we all lie, and it's almost lie even more when we're supposed to be telling the unvarnished truth. And I'm just that's the interesting thing about being a writer.
Is that because if you told just the plain truth in a memoir, it'd be completely and utterly boring?
That would be part of it, yes.
Well, speaking of words, check this out. We've got the Newbie Writers community on Google+, and Grammar Girl, so Mignon Fogarty, posted up 10 words whose pronunciation has changed over time. It's well worth a read. We won't go through them now, but yeah, check it out. I saw it pop up. It was kind of cool.
I would imagine often is one of them, because everybody now is saying often,
Wasn't that?
Because that's how it's written, yeah.
It bugs me. I mean, we don't say, we don't say I'm going to soften this dough before I put it in the oven,
Why not?
Bugs me.
like
that's part of the evolution of all of these words. It's fascinating. So you're right. Soften may drop that T, and often, because suddenly we decided that we want to be classier than we really are, may retain it. That might be very interesting. It'll be interesting to see that. Maybe not in our lifetime, but interesting.
But yeah, I mean, some of the words here, like antique, for example, made in or typical of earlier times and valued for its age. That's sort of the meaning of it. Originally, this rhymed with frantic, because it was considered parallel to antic, a word similar meaning of old and grotesque. The current pronunciation, rhyming with mystique, is modelled on the French pronunciation from the 18th century. So,
Ever since the Normans in 1066, it's been a problem, yes.
Arrogant fool! So, yes.
They got it all from Latin anyway.
That's right. So, yeah, apparently humour, the word dates from the mid-14th century, but pronunciation, including the H, is very recent. Uma Thurman.
It doesn't sound good that first way.
No.
It doesn't. So anyway, read it. Go and check it out. If you can't find it on our thing, go to quickanddirtytips.com. You'll see it.
There you go. Because we like Grammar Girl. She's a good friend. She's done some good shows with us.
Yes.
Wonderful.
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
what does she drink?
I'm not sure.
What does she drink? We'll have to ask her.
Yes.
Okay.
And that's going to be a bizarre email. Hey, Minion, we gave you a shout out on the show. By the way, what do you drink?
What do you drink? What are you drinking right now?
It's like we're the pickup podcast.
Well, and you're a pretty easy bunch there too. Before I know that you're going to have to sign off at some point and let me go, but I'm here with you for however you need. But I do want to say thank you. I didn't say thank you at the beginning for having me on, Catherine and Damien, and it's been fun. It's been a nice hangout with you guys.
Good, thank you. Well, we appreciate you responding so positively. When I saw your book, I thought, I collect books on writing, and so when I saw your book, it's like, there's one I haven't read, and I have it on my list to buy, and I thought, what the heck? Let me contact you and talk with you. So I really appreciate you coming on and talking with us about your work and giving us excellent tips for our newbie writers.
It's been a great pleasure.
Well, here's a quick thing.
Good.
So with the Writer's Digest, do you get to have any input into the Writer's Digest writing website thing?
They would like to have me to have a lot more input on the website. They pay me to write the articles, and then they put them up on the website as well as print them in the print magazine. And I've done a couple of blogs for them, a couple of blog posts for them, and they'd love to have me do more. But it's like I'm so swamped with other free stuff to do for both. It's sort of helping writers as well as Elizabeth promo. So I just I haven't done as much as I might.
It was just that when I took over Newbie Writers, they had just got listed on something. There's like a Writer's Digest top 101 websites or something.
Oh,
I'm just not sure how you even get onto that. Someone obviously had nominated it or put it on there before I came on board. I was just curious. And how does it work? Do they just go trawl through hundreds of websites and go, yeah, that was a good one? Put that on the list?
Your guess is as good as mine there, Damien. I don't know. I know that it's a conscientious bunch of people who put out both the magazine and the deal with the website and put out content on the website, both original and reprinted, so to speak. So I would imagine that at least somebody took a look at what you guys were doing and thought it was very good, thought it was very special, because this is a worldwide list. It's not just U.S. or English-speaking countries, for that matter.
Yeah, that's right. Cool. I just want to find out who I have to pay $10 to get our name on the list. That's all right.
Yeah, to get back on.
Anyway, well, it's been.
I don't know.
It's been a lot of fun. Is there anyone you want to give a shout out to?
Oh, well, my beloved partner Marcia, and also I would like to give a shout out to the people that I dedicated You've Got a Book in You to, and that's anybody who has ever looked at a shelf of books and wondered, I wonder if I could do that. So I say hello to all of you. My heart goes to all of you, and perhaps if you do some writing, and especially if my book's been helpful, maybe you'll drop me a line about it.
Oh, and quickly, you had someone you wanted to read out something. You had a reader or something send you a note?
Oh gosh, you're very nice to remember this. Yeah, just simply, this is an email that I got a while back. I get them from readers who are happy with the book. This fellow says, I just finished a recent article in Writer's Digest, and I also have your latest book about writing. Great advice in both places. And I have to tell you, your book is so refreshing and so motivating because it's not filled with all this ponderous, you must bleed on your keyboard guidance that never makes me feel worthy to attempt anything. Of all the writing books I've got, and yes, I've put more time into reading them than actually writing, yours is the first that really makes me think I can do something, really. I especially love the fact that you talked about not having to aim for great all the time. I think that holds lots of folks back, and it's nice to see that debunked. So that's from a reader named Mark, and that made me feel good. I also got one recently from a woman who wrote that God sent her across the street to the Barnes & Noble bookstore where she was guided to my book on the shelf, and she picked it up and has been reading it and has been writing. And I'm like, I'm okay for it. Hey, whatever works.
How did you respond to that?
That is awesome.
I guess we have a special connection there. Well, we all do.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, it was very moving to hear from this reader who felt very strongly about writing and about the book.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well,
that's quite a compliment. Good for you.
We didn't get any emails like that this week. We got one saying, could you please take me off the subscription list? And when I tried to look for their email, they weren't in the list anyway, so I don't know what that was about.
I'm sorry to hear that. Those always hurt your ego there a little bit.
Well, speaking of emails, I was getting a lot of spam come through, and there was one for, apparently there's some very lonely Russian girls that require a visa. And
really?
My contractor, because my phones are blinked up, and he goes, they're clearly not lonely. And I went, what? He goes, I see that email all the time. And that's where I got an insight into my contractor's email queue, I think.
Oh, really?
Oh, yes. Shout out.
That's not to ask.
That's not ask, but if 1 week I say, look, I've got a new employee and she's a Russian, then you know what's going on.
Yep.
Oh, God.
Anyway, so who have we got on next week?
Next week we have Alicia Dumons, who is a proponent of being able to write your book in a weekend. So we're going from encouragement to, I think, complete insanity. So I'm going to look forward to talking to Alicia and seeing what this is all about.
That's just going to be crazy.
I know. It'll be fun.
Try and put that to the test. We should have Elizabeth's book there. I know I've got this book in me, and then go, right, now I'm going to try and do this in a weekend.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'd like to see that, Damien.
I know.
Have to find a weekend.
I asked her on the show. I mean, I saw her at the San Francisco Writers Conference, and I saw the material. So we're talking. She's lovely, so she'll be a lively guest. And I went to her talk, and I'm looking at the material. It's like, oh, I so need to hear more about this.
Cool.
That's quite provocative.
Yeah. Also, I have to do a shout out. My final book in the series, the Real Estate Diva series, is free today and free tomorrow. So you can download Trash Out on Amazon, and it's on Kindle.
Cool. Oh, yes.
Great. Congratulations.
Thank you. It's the last one. Is kind of I'm doing a push to get the books out there, and then I'm going to move on, and I've got another series that I'm working on. Then that's the one that's languishing at a publisher as we speak. So. And Damien already looked at the second book and told me he hates it. So I'm working on that, Damien, really.
Hey, you wanted an honest opinion, but hey,
I did.
You can fix it now. It's better that I criticize it now before anyone sees it.
I agree.
Now, Elizabeth, where can people find you out on the worldwide internets?
Oh, yes. Well, you could Google my name, Elizabeth Sims, that is with one M, and my website should pop up, but it's www.elizabethsims.com, and at that place you can learn more about me and my books, and also contact me via email. My email address is on the website there as well under the contact button.
Are you on Twitter?
Yes, although I suck at tweeting. I just, today I posted the first tweet I've posted that wasn't like a duty tweet about my latest blog or something. Oh, I also blog, and it was about you guys' show. But I also blog about writing weekly. I blog weekly about writing, and my blog is called Zestful Writing. And because I'm like, there's a lot of blogs about, how to make money writing and get published and all this stuff, But I wanted to blog about the craft of writing and the commitment to the craft and having fun while you're doing it. So I do that, and that's esimsauthor blogspot.com.
Cool. I'm trying to find you on Twitter, and I can't.
I'm esimsauthor on Twitter.
Okay.
I hate Twitter. Anyway, it's not time to do that.
Well, I'll tweet out because I like some of your comments, and so if people follow me at C Bramkamp, you'll see, and it's hashtag Newbie Writers, and I put a lot of what Elizabeth had to say, and then I'm linking them all back to you, Elizabeth. So I'll do the work for you.
Well, thank you so much. I will appreciate that, and retweet and so forth. Yes, but hashtag Newbie Writers, right?
Yes.
Yep.
And you can follow me at Newbie Writers. I'm on Google+. I did post up a comment that someone has done an amazing YouTube video on everything wrong with the movie Frozen in 10 minutes.
Oh, really? I don't know if I want to know because I like Frozen a lot.
I have a man crush on this guy. He's hilarious. It's
okay.
I had 23 likes in like 12 hours on this thing from posting it up. It is brilliant. Awesome. The stuff he comes up with. So check that out.
Hey, are you guys on Facebook too then as well?
Yep.
Well.
Okay. Is Newbie Writers on Facebook?
Yes, it is.
The Newbie Writers group, I think.
Yeah, Newbie Writers, or you can just Facebook me at Catherine Bramkamp. I'll friend you, and I put all sorts of stuff on that one as well.
But hey, look, if anyone listening, if you're confused by where to find us, newbiewriters.com. The rest is out there. So.
Yep, you got it. Thank you again, Elizabeth. This was great. You have great energy, and I think a very encouraging message for new authors. We appreciate that.
Well, the pleasure was all mine, and I really am honored to be on your show. And of course, I'd be glad to return if you ever, get really desperate to fill an hour, sometime in the future.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Cool.
All right.
Well, until next week, we'll see you then.
See you then.
Your book starts here on the Newbie Writers Podcast.